actually begin our event here this morning. Also, I'll let you know, you probably have something on your screen right now that says that this meeting is being live streamed. So telling you that it is being live streamed on the American Pilgrims Facebook page. So in addition to the 244 participants for American Pilgrims this morning on this Zoom, we're also recording this. So if you don't want to be recorded, you can blank out your screen. And Dave, it looks like all systems are go. And I'd like to introduce to you Dave Donsler. He is the current chairman. He's been the chairman of the American Pilgrims. Asking again, I can hear some people there that have not muted, and just begging please to mute. And maybe Dave can help facilitate that. But Dave, why don't you take it away and tell us a little bit about American Pilgrims and the gathering that's going to take place starting in March.
That sounds great, Tom. And I want to start out by thanking Tom for coming up with this this idea. So this was his brainchild, and it's I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Currently, we have let me see, we're up to 254 people now. We're furiously admitting people as we get started here, but we had 625 people sign up for this first session. And we've got another 350 or so signed up for the second session. So looking forward to that. So let me start out by saying welcome to everybody here and in our Facebook community. As Tom said, we're streaming live on Facebook. So this could potentially be the largest gathering of American Pilgrims I think that we've ever had. So that's pretty exciting. Just want to remind everybody the mission of American Pilgrims on the Camino is to share information with current and future pilgrims. We do that through our website. We do it through our Facebook community. We do it through our La Concha magazine, and our team of volunteers spends a lot of time trying to get that information out. A big part of our mission is to support the Camino infrastructure. I think over our history, we've given nearly $500,000 in grants to support projects on the Camino, and we continue to do that every year. We're on pace over the past several years, ranging between $50,000 and $60,000 per year, about 14 to 17 individual projects on the Camino per year. And so we're very proud of all that effort and a huge team of volunteers that helps us do that. And then, of course, we get to this part, which is the gathering pilgrims together. Huge part of our mission. And as Tom said, in addition to this type of virtual gathering, we're actually really excited to get back to gathering in person with our 2022 annual gathering of pilgrims, which is going to be held this year at the YMCA Blue Ridge Assembly in Black Mountain, North Carolina. Registration for that will open on January 8th. And we're looking for, I think that's going to fill up pretty quickly. Everybody's pretty anxious to get back into these in-person gatherings. And we're going to do that as safely as possible. So for that gathering in Black Mountain, the policy is going to be vaccinated individuals may attend, and with a testing requirement and masking and social distancing for our indoor portions of our activities. Obviously, that's going to change. Things can change between now and then with these variants, and as the number, we're going to keep a close eye on the numbers locally. And so watch the website for those requirements. These requirements in particular right now are being driven by the YMCA Blue Ridge Assembly. They have probably the most restrictive policy that we've seen, but is probably the best for keeping our entire community safe and healthy for the gathering. So we're fully supportive of that. Like I said, the gathering is going to be March 31st through April 3rd. Huge lineup of speakers. We've got some of the folks that have been sort of what you've come to expect from our American Pilgrims gatherings, some of the just incredible speakers. And we've got a lot of new things this year. One of them that I'm particularly excited about is we have a Broadway comedian who wants to come and test her show called Crying on the Camino. It's a one-woman show. It's gotten great reviews. It's shown once on Broadway so far and in a theater, and we're really looking forward to having her come. and we're going to have some special musical guests. So a lot of music, and it'll be nice to see everybody. So hope you pay attention to that. Watch our website as for more information. We have a draft program linked on there, so you can get some idea of what you can expect. But I hope to see you all there. Finally, Tom mentioned that I'm actually in the last couple of weeks as chair of American Pilgrims, and I've been proud to lead this organization with the team of volunteers for the last 3 years. Really excited to turn over to Steve Litch, who's our next chair, Sarah Gradwall, who's going to be our next vice chair. Bill Arts is going to maintain his role as treasurer for an additional year. And then Allison Venuto is going to be our secretary. So great slate of officers. And again, great team of volunteers in the organization.
Good job.
In good hands moving forward. So very proud of that team. So with all that said, I'll turn this over now back, Tom. I'll send it to you, and you can direct traffic through this incredible gathering. Thanks.
Great. It is really good to see that there's now 280 participants. And with so many participants, Dave, if I could ask you, you've got the controls. And Dave, by the way, for many that may not know, he should be a good person at the controls. He's actually a submarine nuclear engineer. And he's retired from the Navy. He's now a consultant for them. And so we've got a brilliant man at the helm here of
despite the engineering degree, I'm going to try to control the computers. Thanks, Tom.
So if you could mute everyone else other than Johnny for this. And Margaret, that's especially for you, I think. Margaret, yeah, there you go. All right, she's muted. Okay. We're going to move forward now, and I'd like to introduce to you Johnny Walker Santiago. He'll be showing up on your screen with my name, and I apologize for that, Johnny. You are probably, if anyone in the world would be known as Mr. Camino, I would give you that status and accolade that you are Mr. Camino, and a brilliant author. He just changed his name. That's great. It is he's given us so many very inspirational talks and books. And Johnny, I'm sure you're going to be showing us some inspirational things here this morning.
Oh, thanks very much, Tom. My goodness, 280 new Pilgrim friends in America. Hello, America. This is John in Santiago. I really, really wanted to be with you. And I've been away actually for the last couple of months, traveling in Spain. And I only got back here about 2 hours ago. I'm sitting in my house. I haven't unpacked yet. I'm sitting here in my house, about 7 minutes walk from the Cathedral of Santiago. I could hear the bells just five minutes ago, the bells for it's 5 o'clock here in Santiago. I've been traveling throughout Spain, particularly in the south, where it's sunny in the south, when it's raining in Santiago, and looking at some of the very beautiful routes down there. But it's true that COVID has made life difficult for everyone, no less so on the Camino, and I don't need to tell you that. However, it's clear to me that Spain is bouncing back, and so is the Camino. And I think I'm predicting that we'll see in a very short space of time, on the 31st of December, that at least 200,000 Compostelas will have been issued by the Pilgrims Office in Santiago, including Compostelas to over 5,000 citizens of the United States who came to Spain and walked the Camino. Now, significantly, that shows you the effect of COVID, that in 2019, over 20,000 Americans got the Compostela. This year, 5,000, but it's an indication that we're on our way back. I know that many of you long to walk into Santiago for the first time, and many of you have been here before, want to return. So before I went traveling, I thought I would invite you to join me in a walk to the cathedral and the Holy Door. So can I recommend that you turn up the sound on your computer Let's go for a walk.
Okay. You're shared.
We are at the Porta del Camino. I'm sure you'll recognize that, you know, pilgrimages start, or Caminos start with a feeling of excitement, and they certainly end with a feeling of excitement. You remember walking down the Rio San Pedro and seeing the old city of Santiago in front of you, and the feeling of mounting excitement of walking with your friends. You know you'll be going home soon, but first you've got to experience coming to the end of the Camino, no matter how long or how short, and at the Cathedral of Santiago. And that's where we're going to go now, as we cross over this road into the old city of Santiago. And of course, the Camino itself is a heritage site. But did you know that the old town of Santiago, as we're walking into right now, past the site of this Porta del Camino, itself a site, a UNESCO site of outstanding universal value. It's quite remarkable. And as we go here, I'm reminded from the Porta del Camino, I'm reminded that Santiago in the Middle Ages had defensive walls all the way around. They were built in the 9th century and then destroyed. And in the 11th century, the Archbishop of the day had another wall built around the city of almost 2 kilometers in length. Each of the routes came in by one of the gates in these defensive walls. We've just come in by the Porta del Camino, where the gate through which the Camino Frances enters the old town. The Camino Inglés that we'll come to in a wee while comes in by the Porta do Pena from the north, from Coruña and from Ferrol on the coast. The Camino Portuguese comes in by the Porta Facheiras, down past the Alameda. Those you have walked in the tree-lined avenue, and you cross over just like we did a minute ago into the old town. The Porta da Mamoa, the route from the south of Via de la Plata coming up from Seville, enters by there, and from the Plaza Obradoiro that we're going to, in the top right-hand corner, the route to Finisterre leaves by the Porta do Trinidad. Santiago de Compostela is the capital of northwest Spain's Galicia region. It's a university town. You might be surprised to find that it's got less than 100,000, 96,000 inhabitants, although, of course, it gets several million tourists annually, plus all of the pilgrims. Walking into Santiago this holy year, a holy year is when the Feast of St. James falls on a Sunday. This happens every 5, 6, or 11 years. The last holy year was 11 years ago. We're just coming up here now to the Church of Animus, or the Holy Souls in Purgatory, which the church was completed in 1788. And to understand the mind of the medieval pilgrims, we look up to this church to see a depiction there on the wall, you'll see it in a moment, of the Holy Souls burning in the fire of purgatory. Because Catholics believe that even having been forgiven their sins, they still had to pay penance for them, and they did that in purgatory. The first Compostela Jubilee year was established by Pope Calixtus in 1126, and he established that in a holy year you could get a plenary indulgence, whereas if you did certain things, went to confession, went to mass, and so forth, you were released from purgatory. It's quite remarkable that in 2019, 347,500 pilgrims registered at the Pilgrims Office. It was expected that this year, in 2021, there would be in excess of 500,000 and some 12 million visitors. But it was quiet during COVID, but it's coming alive again. And you can feel the excitement as we walk into the Plaza Cervantes. Now, just on my left, I'll point to it in a second, just on my left, is perhaps in the pilgrim world, the most famous restaurant in Santiago, Casa Manolo, where pilgrims actually queue up to eat in Santiago because it's of great value. And next to that is the Church of San Benito, the last church on the Camino Frances. And then if we turn around, the Plaza Cervantes, it's named after Cervantes, of course, the medieval author Miguel de Cervantes. We're passing his statue, who is held to be the greatest writer in the Spanish language. We proceed down the Rua Athabacceria is named like that because of the artisan workshops which produce jewellery from Athabacce, or we would call it jet, a black gemstone formed from coal. This is still one of the traditional crafts in Santiago, and nowadays there's a great movement to try and keep these traditional crafts alive. And we're walking down now. This will be very familiar to you. The brass arrows are on the ground. You can see the pilgrims sometimes bewildered, saying, how do we get to the cathedral? But before that, of course, we're walking down the Camino Frances as it enters the city. And then just at this next corner that I'm coming to, the Camino Inglés joins. It comes all the way from Coruña, the people have sailed there, and the gate is just along, used to be just along from where I'm pointing, the Porta do Pena. And we carry on down past the souvenir shops and the jewellery shops. And it's remarkably quiet. It's quite early in the morning when I'm doing this to show you what it's like. But Santiago has been very, very, very busy indeed. And just along here, you'll see that man waving to me. Funnily enough, that's a bar that I go to. Now, just at this, on the left-hand side of this shop, you'll see the jet jewellery that's made by hand and crafted and carved. It's quite expensive, but it really is the great symbol of the artisan crafts here in Santiago. And we go down, you'll see many people wearing masks and some not. Visitors not wearing masks, but the local people wearing masks. People are still being very, very careful in Spain. The rule is you've got to wear a mask inside a shop, so everybody carries one. But if you're outside and you can maintain a distance of at least 1.5 meters from another person, it's not obligatory to wear a mask. So we enter into the Plaza Inmaculada. And here on the right-hand side is the Hospederia San Martin Pinario. It's the seminary San Martin Pinario, still used as a seminary, although 1/3 of it, the third at the bottom there, has now been turned into a hotel. It's been providing a welcome for pilgrims who visit the tomb of St James since the end of the 16th century. It's the largest building in Galicia and one of the largest in all of Spain. Ahead, in front of me there, is the path of Gelmírez. Gelmírez was the archbishop who really put Santiago on the map. He popularised the pilgrimage. And I'm just showing you the name of the road. It's named after Athabacceria and was very famous as the traditional entrance of the pilgrims from the Camino Frances. And there's more jewellery there being shown. And as we go down, the white building is the present mansion of the Archbishop of Santiago. And to the left of that is the entrance to the cathedral, which for many years was the pilgrim entrance before the Portico de la Gloria opened up the great stairs at the front of the cathedral in 1188. Through the arch with the bagpiper there to welcome us and into the Plaza Obradoiro, let's just feel the excitement that we all felt as we heard the bagpipes and we knew that the end was coming. The bagpiper welcomes us into the Plaza Obradoiro, with the great Cathedral of Santiago presiding over it. I always think the Plaza, it's in the Plaza we see all of Santiago life in one place. On the left, I'll just point it out to you, if I can avoid this tourist train knocking me down, it's just starting off. So on the left, no sorry, it's on the right, is the Parador, the oldest hotel in the world. It's not a 5-star hotel. It started off in 1499 and was constructed on the orders of the Catholic kings to provide a hospital for pilgrims. In front of me is the Palace of Rajoy, built to accommodate the many priests who were needed to hear the confessions of the pilgrim. It's now the town hall, and to the right is the original headquarters of the University of Santiago, going back to 1495. Of course, the square is dominated by the great Cathedral of Santiago, which is the destination of all pilgrims who walk the Camino. It's quiet today, but usually there are pilgrims celebrating, throwing down their rucksacks. The cyclists lift their cycles high, but everyone, and people get their photographs taken, but everyone stands in awe at the scale of the cathedral. You can imagine what it looked like to the medieval pilgrim. It's enormous. And there it is, without scaffolding, cleaned, repaired. The stones, the statues have all been renewed. It's beautiful at night when it's lit up, and gorgeous during the day. And we're going to leave by this bottom corner, which is actually where the pilgrims on the Camino Português enter the Plaza Obradoiro. And that Portuguese Camino is, of course, the second busiest pilgrimage route after the Camino Frances. This is the beginning of the Rua Franco. You'll see it in a minute. And the Rua Franco has nothing to do with the dictator Franco, you might be surprised to hear. It's where the French people arrived in the Middle Ages to settle in Santiago and open their shops. There's a boy with 2 rucksacks. I hope he hadn't been carrying them all the way along the Camino. And there it is, the great facade. As we leave it behind, we pass on the left-hand side the entrance to the museum of the Cathedral of Santiago with the treasury, which is very worthwhile visiting us. We go down here, we're just passing the headquarters of the medieval university, or the medieval headquarters of the university. Straight ahead is the Rua Franco, and we're going to turn left here. But just before we do, you'll see how much tourism is back in the city when we've got 3 people handing out leaflets for the bus tours to Finisterre and Muxía and other points on the coast. And we're going up this road here into the Plaza Platarias, and straight ahead, I'll point it out, straight ahead facing me as we enter the Plaza is the Modern Museum of Pilgrimage. There used to be 2, they've merged them into one, and it's a really, really good museum, and it gives you a whole perspective of pilgrimage throughout the world. And I was astonished when I learned that after walking my first Camino, that there was this parallel world of pilgrimage, with pilgrims walking all over the world on pilgrimage routes on every single continent. In the Plaza Platarias, the Plaza Platarias means the Plaza of the Silversmiths, and that's where this artisan work of the silver craft continues today. And immediately as we enter this, we're aware of the buzz. You'll see it in a minute, of the queue of people waiting to get into the cathedral. There's the Museum of Pilgrimage on my right. On my left are several silversmith shops. We'll show you the goods. There it is, the Plaza Platarias. I'll wait till this camera catches up with me. There we are, and we have the silversmith shops. A lot of it handmade, I suppose. Nowadays, some of it's imported, but it's an example yet again of that traditional craftsmanship of which Santiago is proud. And now we're going to go up these steps, and in this plaza is the main entrance to the cathedral. The other door is used as an exit, and of course there's reduced capacity at the moment, and in the Holy Year there are 4 pilgrims masses per day to cope with the numbers. And you'll see the length of the queue now. We're in October, when numbers are lower than they ever were before in the year, but the queue is still long. People have been waiting a couple of hours to get into the pilgrim mass. Early in the year they were talking about 3 or 4 hour waits in the queue. And there are 2 queues, as you'll see, because immediately as I break my way through this queue, queue, you'll see another queue just over there. That's the cathedral shop on my left-hand side. And in front of me is the queue of people wanting to go through the holy door. This is the special door, which is bricked up at the conclusion of every holy year, and it's left sealed until the following year. And it's considered to be very auspicious to walk through the holy door. So as we get close, you'll see it. You'll probably recognize this from visits to Santiago, but if you weren't here in a holy year, it would be closed and bricked up, and the gates would be closed. I'm wondering what people would say if I went to the front of this queue and tried to skip the queue. Spanish people don't like that at all. But there's the entrance to the holy door. We'll go through so you can see the degree to which the cathedral has been cleaned and the stonework restored to its original condition. And it's extremely beautiful. Spanish people, all of them, consider it a great fortune to walk through the holy door. And so I won't try and skip the queue, but I'll be here. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You can't be here, so I'm going to now stand in line for the queue, and I'll walk through it for you, and I'll see you soon. Every Camino, no matter how long or how short, ends with a homecoming. And here we are back in my home in Santiago. We're in my library, as you can see, and every Camino also ends with a celebration. And I thought we would celebrate together and raise a glass to friendship, a glass to the Camino, and a glass in saying farewell to you today. And we finish with a song that we sing in Scotland at New Year. It's a song of friendship, it's a song of farewell, but it's also a song of expectation that friends will meet again. And I raise a glass to you, hoping that I will see you soon here in Santiago. All the best.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll tak a cup o' kindness yet for days of old lang syne. Old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll tak a cup o' kindness yet for days of old lang syne.
Johnny, that was powerful. That was powerful, inspirational, and I can see everybody saying how terrific it was. It's sort of like the Camino, it started off with a little bit of a challenge there with the audio, but once when you get going on the Camino, it turns into one of the most beautiful experiences, and you helped make that beautiful memories and a beautiful experience for those to come. Thank you so much for sharing that.
My pleasure. Have a great rest of the meeting. Bye-bye.
Okay, Johnny, you might want to stick around because you're.
I'll be here.
Okay, very good. Again, our hats off to you. You've thoroughly inspired us here this morning. You never fail to do that. You gave us a beautiful video on St. James Feast Day at our celebration here in South Bend. And then also you did a excellent job giving a lecture to our Camino class here in South Bend. So thank you very much, Johnny. And I'm sure that everybody was touched this morning by your video and you being here from Santiago. Johnny is has worked at the American Pilgrim, not the American Pilgrim office, but the actual Camino Pilgrim office there not far from the cathedral. And he's also an organist. And Johnny, I'm a little surprised that you didn't also play the organ for us here today.
Next time.
Next time. Okay, that's a promise. We're going to do this again. And the next time.
I'll play if you sing.
So what a very talented and inspirational person you are to the Camino, Johnny. You are so much appreciated. Thank you. Well, let's move on to our pilgrim, American pilgrim that is on the Camino right now, Anne Bourne. She's written a couple of books about the Camino, as Johnny has written several books about the Camino. And Anne is live. Anne, exactly where are you? If people are following on the map, I understand it's between Leon and Astorga, and you're in a town that starts off with hospital.
I'm in Hospital de Órbigo.
And you started your Camino in Pamplona, was it?
Yes, just outside Pamplona on
And-
November 22nd.
So you've been hiking since November 22nd. In the wintertime, you've shared some pictures of walking through the snow, walking through the mud, finding places to stay. You have not had to sleep out in the snow. Is that correct?
No, I'm grateful for that, I'll tell you.
You're feeling fine. You're being safe as you walk.
Yeah, no, I'm having a ball. This is what I want to do.
Now, I understand you have a special plan when you get to Santiago. You want to share that with all of us?
A special plan when I get to Santiago. I'll probably just spend every waking moment sitting in the cathedral.
And so everybody does know you have a special connection to the cathedral. Is that true?
I do. I've written a little guide that is directed specifically to American pilgrims. When I started looking at the guidebooks that they sell in the shop, they're all pretty boring. They're all translations of Spanish. So I wanted to put something out that I thought would be helpful for American pilgrims.
Okay, I should put an asterisk by your comment that they're all boring because Johnny Walker has written some excellent books about the Camino, and you're being followed by John Brierley, who's written a definitive book, a guidebook for pilgrims. So I should put a little.
No. I mean specifically
the
the guidebooks
cathedral.
to the cathedral.
I'm
The
glad you
guidebooks to the
clarified.
cathedral are dull. They're just, and then in 1168 this happened, and in 1211 this happened, and I wanted something more fun.
Now, I understand that you're going to be entering Santiago on Christmas Day. That's your plan?
I actually had to back it up a little bit. As we speak, my daughter is in labor and having my third granddaughter. So I've sort of rejiggered my plans so that I can go to England and see her. So I'll be getting into Santiago a little bit sooner.
Sooner. Okay. And I understand you're going to meet a friend in Santiago?
I am. I have a very good friend who has offered me shelter for Christmas, and I'm delighted about that. I'm really looking forward to that. And the Orujo.
Arujo. Johnny, I wonder if that's what you were drinking, the Arujo there at the toast. That is a favorite there in Spain, and appreciate that toast here today. So, Anne, I'm sure that people that are planning on walking the Camino here in the months ahead would like to hear the status of the Camino now. If you could tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly of walking the Camino in the pandemic and doing it in November and December.
Yeah, it's kind of a double whammy. I'm used to walking in winter. This is my preferred time to do the Camino, but I'll tell you, it's one of these things where it's hard for me to tell whether something's closed because of COVID or something's closed because of the season. But I will say that I'm finding a few more things closed than I would expect in the winter. And I joke, I just say, you know what, everything's closed. It's not true. It just seems like that. And when you really, really want the bar to be open, it typically isn't. But that can happen in July just as easily. So it's hard for me to tell what is COVID related and what is seasonal.
So, but you are finding a bed every night. You're finding a meal every day.
Yes, I am.
So how many people are you seeing on the Camino?
Today I didn't see anyone. I walked from Via Dangas El Paramo to Hospital de Orbigo. I didn't see anyone. Yesterday I saw 2. The day before I saw another 2, I believe. But you know, it's not that I can really gauge how many people are walking, because I do this a little bit differently. I leave later in the morning, so people will walk ahead of me and I won't see them. And I also walk shorter distances, because what I found when I got here was that as much as I wanted to walk 26 kilometers, I'm just not able to. So there are a lot of mitigating factors, we're going to say.
Very good. You know, you've also got some fabulous details, and I had the pleasure of you telling me a couple of facts of the cathedral, because you've written a book about the cathedral. But what is one impressive fact that maybe the American pilgrims would love to hear? Just one fact about the cathedral that you discovered in your research.
Well, you know, it was fun writing the book. I really had such a ball writing the book, because I had to do all the research on my back porch in Michigan because Spain was closed. So it was a fun exercise, and I read lots of academic articles. I have to say that the one person that really struck me over all of the people that I wrote about, because my book is not based in dates and sort of data, it's just telling the stories of all the people who have been in the building. Well, not all, but lots of the people who've been in the building. I was struck by a Mexican priest, a man named Monroy, who grew up in Mexico City, went to the best schools. He came from a family that produced Dominican brothers and sisters, so that the real family business was actually the church. And he rises in the ranks, and he comes to Rome, being sponsored by another priest, and he ends up being the head of the Dominican order, and everybody hates him. He's very strict, he's very austere, he's picky, he's a pain in the neck, and everybody, you know, thinks he's a real drag, and they want to do fun things, I guess, as Dominican brothers and priests and sisters would want to do. And they got this guy who's in charge, and he's making everybody crazy. So what they do is they decide to retire him. And as a nice retirement gift, they give him the archbishop job in Santiago de Compostela. Now, this is remarkable. It's remarkable on so many levels. It places New Spain on the map for the first time at the end of the 17th century. This is a big thing for Mexico, for New Spain. He brings substance, he brings his education. He has the equivalent of a PhD from the schools that he went to in Mexico. So this is important, you know, to bring New Spain into the world community. And he shows up in Santiago, and of course you got to know that he drives everybody there crazy, and he starts writing notes right away to the Pope. Get me out of here. I want another job. I don't care if you send me to Peru, get me out of here. And one rejection after another. And remarkably, the man is there in his retirement for 30 years. Now, what did he do? He built this spectacular Capilla del Pilar, because he had a special affection for Our Lady of the Pillar, the instance where Mary appears in Saragossa on a pillar, and she's typically, you see the image of her standing on a pillar. The chapel is absolutely stunning, and it becomes his burial chapel. But what else did he do? He covered the cathedral in silver. Mexican silver. And there is an image of Our Lady of Guadalupe that was given to him by his brother, that is one who is also a Dominican priest, which is one of the earliest instances of that famous depiction of Our Lady of Guadalupe with the stars in the oval. Yeah, he's one of my favorite guys.
That's great. See it, and you're such an expert on the cathedral, and Johnny is too. Just as he showed us, he actually took us all around the Camino this morning, which was an awesome voyage. So we felt that we went around the cathedral today. What is? I know this is a tough question, but what is your biggest takeaway from your Camino experiences? What keeps you going? What makes you go on the Camino in December?
Well, you know, the first time I did it was in 2010, and I started in Sarria. And it was one of these things where I read an article in the New York Times. I was in my office in New York, and I read an article in the New York Times. It said that there was this big church, and they had a holy door, and they were going to close it. And I thought, you know, that might be kind of cool, you know, to kind of, you know, walk through the door before they close it. So there's a student assistant in my office who looked at me and he said, "You have to do this." And I said, "Oh, come on, Alex, I can't, you know, I can't. I mean, no. He says, "You have to do this. You have to walk through that door. If that door is open, you have to walk through it." So I spent the better part of the afternoon on Expedia.com instead of working. And I thought, if I leave New York on December 25th, when nobody wants to fly anyway, I can walk the 5 days from Sarria to Santiago and go through the door. Like, you know, Alex says I have to do it. So long story short, I arrived in Santiago an hour and a half before they closed the door.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
walked through it, and I went to mass that evening. And then I just passed out in my hotel and watched the fireworks through a skylight in my room in the hotel. And it was phenomenal. And it didn't even occur to me that I shouldn't do this in December, because I grew up in Michigan. You know, December is like, you know, I got 6 months of December in Michigan, you know. So yeah, so I said, you know what, that was cool. I got to do this again. And then I did. 2 years later, I walked with my 2 daughters from Leon in December, and we celebrated Christmas in Foncebadon.
So it would be safe to say that if you are a pilgrim that doesn't want to meet many people, perhaps now is the time to be doing your Camino before the crowds come back to Spain and Portugal and France and so forth. You know, you were talking about Our Lady of Guadalupe. It's interesting that you bring that up. Today is December 11th. Tomorrow is the feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Also, you talked about a PhD, and we're going to feature the American Pilgrim PhD live on our Zoom this evening. Dr. George Greenya, who's from William and Mary College, and he is probably one of the world's experts on medieval history and about the pilgrimage of the Camino. Well, Anne, we wish you the very, very best on your Camino, your Buen Camino, also being being a grandmother again, and just have an abundance of gratitude for you and both Johnny this morning for sharing your very personal stories with just counting here 292 fellow pilgrims of the Camino. Thank you very, very much, Anne.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to go now we're looking for John Brierly. If John, you are there, if you would speak up, and also if Don or if Dave Donseler would take a look to find John Brierly in our group of almost 300 pilgrims, and click on John Brierly there. He should be on our Zoom. And as we're awaiting that moment,
I'm taking a look there, Tom. I don't see him on here yet. Oh, John B. I have John B. Maybe is that?
Well, I'm here. I can see you all.
Okay.
I'm unmuted and I'm on the video.
Excellent.
Very good. So we've got, I think did the Beach Boys write a song about you, John? John B, Sloop John B? Can we play that song? Are you familiar with it?
Well, it's certainly my era.
Oh, this is just an unbelievable morning to see the three of our guests today. John, you're the ultimate guide writer for the pilgrims on the Camino. Tell us about yourself, how you got involved in the Camino, and what inspired you to guide all the pilgrims.
Gosh, am I right in saying we've got 20 minutes or 15 minutes?
Well, you know what, John? I think people are going to listen
And
to
you
you.
know, I'm from Ireland, and 20 minutes is that's a very short time. But let me give you a brief introduction. I mean, the Camino has changed my life as it's changed many other people's lives. You know, I stumbled on it by accident, which many people seem to do. And literally in the time that it took me to walk into Santiago, my life had changed. Now, it wasn't the only thing. There was change happening in my life, but certainly the Camino was an absolute catalyst towards a major shift in my orientation towards life and living and values. And essentially, it was the major change in my life. And when I learned and understood and accepted for myself that my life is a Camino, the beautiful thing is that I'm always on it. I can never not be on the Camino. It's a journey, it's a spiritual journey, it's a journey of awakening, of self-discovery. I'm on it now talking to you, just as I will be on it walking along the Camino Portuguese hopefully in March. Once I understood that, I can never, ever not be on I can forget I'm on the Camino, and I do, and I get ratty and upset, but less than I used to. And it doesn't take me long now to remember, so I'm going through a little rough patch here. This is a rather hilly stage on my Camino today. There'll be flatter space later on, and there of course always is. But when I accept my life is a journey, then it becomes infinitely exciting. Everything is a learning opportunity. So yes, I owe the Camino much.
Wow. Where in Ireland are you, John?
Well, I'm not. My family are all over now in the UK, but Ireland was where I spent the first 40 years of my life. And then I had the classic existential crisis, which brought me onto the Camino, where those big questions start bubbling up. Who am I? What am I doing here? Why did I incarnate? What's the purpose of my life? All those big, deep questions that the Camino gives us time and permission to explore. Because again, I think one of the great gifts of the Camino is that, while weather is very important, whether we need to keep our poncho close to us, it also and exclusively, in my experience around the world, gives us permission to immediately get into those deeper questions of life, because it's a pilgrimage. And by definition, that's another aspect of the hike. It's an inner journey. So those inner questions, not only do we have an opportunity or a way to discuss them or open up to them, it's almost like a duty. That's what a pilgrim is, to enter into that inner exploration. So it's another aspect of the Camino that I deeply appreciate.
So, your guidebook is a very practical guidebook. You give us, the directions of how to maneuver the pilgrimage, but you have so much more deeper meaning inside of you. What advice or insights might you share with the almost 300 pilgrims that are on the Zoom this morning that perhaps is not in your guidebook?
Well, I think it is in the guidebook, but if you like, subtly, because when it comes to an inner experience, it's obviously very personal for each of us. Each of us come from a different religious, philosophical, cultural background. But I believe fundamentally we all have the exact same spiritual DNA. We all come from the same source. And that's why I think one of the great gifts of the Camino is this sense of belonging. The Camino is a family. It's far more than friendship. It's a family that goes very, very deep. It's spiritual family. You can't get deeper than that. And that sense of belonging is what most people write to me and say the greatest gift they took away from the Camino was this great sense of belonging to something that was bigger than they were, bigger than they thought the Camino was. It was something far grander. It was, in a sense, that that call of the Camino, and all of us on this gathering today, we've all in some way heard the call of the Camino, and we've answered it in some way. And that's often, whether we're conscious of it or not, often on a deeper level. Something is happening or wanting to happen in our lives to deepen our meaning, our purpose for being here, to embrace a more loving, caring self. And so I think that's what the Camino offers us, this belonging. And I think that's a very important aspect for many, many people.
So let's say you meet a person, there's a person that's on the Zoom right now that has not read your guidebook, that doesn't know much about the Camino. What advice might you give them?
Well, I would say, first and foremost, that the Camino as a pilgrimage, that is, as a spiritual journey, is entered into and experienced on two different levels. There is the hike through the beautiful landscape temple of France or Spain or Portugal or Hungary, wherever we start. I mean, there are 87,000 kilometers of waymarked historical routes through Europe. But wherever we go, we walk through that landscape. And nature is often a very powerful mover for us, entering into a sort of a deeper experience of life and living. And so we prepare for the outer journey, and a lot of your questions earlier on were, about, what to bring, when to go, all that sort of thing, all the practical questions. But at the same time, as we prepare for the practical journey, I also really encourage us all, and remind myself when I go on out there again in March, to also make preparation for the inner journey, to spend ideally as much time on preparation for that inner journey as for the outer journey. Why am I doing this? What's the purpose that I want to have? What do I want to learn from this time I'm taking out? I'm taking out a block of time, maybe a month. That's a long time in maybe 2 months. I've met people from Budapest who've taken 3 months to walk from Budapest. These are long periods of time. So really take time. I really encourage us all to remember to take time to prepare for that inner journey as well. Because that's what a pilgrimage, that's what changes the Camino from a hike across Europe to an inner journey across Europe. And of course, the Camino doesn't end in Santiago. The Camino, as I mentioned before, certainly in my experience, one of the essential aspects of the Camino is whatever we learn along the Camino, and we all learn something, even the greatest skeptics I've spoken to over the years, by the time they reach Santiago, something has shifted and changed with them, nearly always. I never met somebody who didn't admit that something had happened, something had shifted, something had changed. They weren't quite sure, they found it difficult to articulate it, but something had happened. Now what we have to do is to bring the Camino home, back into our everyday life. Because if, in order to have that sense of deep connection, we need to walk the Camino, well then almost by definition, it becomes, it's rendered its power is lost if when we get home we forget about it. And that's another aspect of this great, Camino family and this great gathering, and all the people on this video today, is we are a support network for when people arrive back home. They've had maybe a wonderful experience, and then what they find is that, all the insights, the classic one is, welcome back to the real world. Well, where on earth is the real world? If consensus reality of today is the real world, well, we are literally all mad, because that consensus reality, look where we are. I mean, there is a madness out there. So we need to encourage us both to prepare for the inner journey, and then when we get back home, and that's of course what the American Pilgrim Association does, but all the wonderful associations and confraternities all around the world offer. It's not only to help us prepare for the journey, and that's very useful, and what to bring and what not to bring, at the practical side, but it also offers us an opportunity to help people when they come back home to hold on to whatever that experience is, to deepen it. Because we need, the Camino is part of the great turning that is now so urgently required, this shift in consciousness away from fear to love. That's what the Camino offers us, and it's such an important, it's one of the most important entities in the world today, because there is no entity that I know of that is more eclectic than the Camino. It literally has representatives from every single nation on earth, rich, poor, black, white, age, nothing, everybody is well. There's nothing like it in the world. It is literally totally eclectic. Everybody is welcome to come. And because of that, it is literally a worldwide brotherhood, sisterhood. There's nothing more powerful in the world today. Not even the United Nations can give us that. So we want to take this precious being and help it to grow and expand in love and kindness and caring, because that's what the world needs desperately today. And the Camino gives us an opportunity to find that in ourselves and bring it out into the world.
John, I think that you just have 300 people here that are just in awe of the powerful statements that you just said. I think it is just really powerful. That is awesome. You said that we're a family, a support group, that we are connected to the Camino in one way or another. What do you feel is the importance of organizations like you in the UK with the confraternity? Here, we're doing this as members of the American Pilgrims on the Camino. What do you see the value of such organizations as a family and support group?
Well, just before COVID, in fact, I arrived back in November from doing a tour of both Canada and America, invited by confraternities and associations in those countries. And I went to big cities, tiny little towns. I went to many, many different venues, and it was awesome. The people who came out in the middle of a city, in a busy day, in these tiny little towns, hundreds of people at all these meetings. It was so heartfelt. It was so powerful. These local associations and national associations mean so much to so many people. It gives people an opportunity to reconnect with the Camino experience, to connect with their purpose in life, their sacred contract. Why are we here? What do we come to do? And these associations and confraternities around the world, in my experience, are very alive. And people want them and they need them. And they need them as much for when they get home as for when they, information on preparation. So they serve the Camino at both ends of the experience, if you like. And that's very important and very powerful. I don't know where, we heard earlier that, 500,000 was raised by the American Pilgrims to support, I don't know, albergues or whatever in Spain and Portugal. I mean, it's not only there's so much, I don't know where we'd be without them. These voluntary organizations, people giving up their time and finding and loving to give that time, and retouching him with that sort of great sense of generosity that the Camino is. So thank heavens you're there.
Well, you're an example, and thank heavens you're there. And you're here. You're actually not there. You're here with us. I feel that we're all here together as 300 pilgrims on the Camino. Asking you, you said that everyone learns something on the Camino. I know this is a tough question, but what is the one thing that's the most powerful thing you've learned on all of your Caminos?
If you wanted one word, it would probably be how to listen. How to listen. To keep an open mind and an open heart. You know, I came from quite a prejudiced background, and it took me a long time to break through into finding out who was I behind my conditioning. I mean, we've all been conditioned by our upbringing. But one plea I would make for us all, and myself included, is whatever happens that comes along the Camino, and the Camino being this discussion, and Camino as being a journey through life, is keep an open heart and an open mind. There was a lovely little poem I came across with an American poet called, I think her name was Gelt Madoff. And she said this beautiful piece. She said, God spoke to me today in flowers, and I, who was waiting on words, almost missed the conversation. If you read behind that, this beautiful thing, the divine is always trying to communicate with us, is always trying to reach us, whatever tradition we come from. The divine is always trying to get us to hear. And if we want to hear that message, the message in the flowers, we have to listen. And we have to listen beyond the mindset that we just want to get enough information to be able to fight back or argue. We want to listen deeply so we can really take in the message. Because in my experience, and I have had some experiences, as we probably all have, the divine speaks in whispers. In fact, Rumi says it beautifully. He says, silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation. I love that. So we need to listen, would be and I need to remind myself constantly about listening. So open heart, open mind, keep listening.
John, you've got almost 300 pilgrims that are listening to you today, and we appreciate their patience and their listening to you. I think we've gotten a lot out of this. It's inspirational. I've got to ask you though, you know, you've described so many routes and so many beautiful places and how to get there. What is your favorite?
Oh gosh,
Your favorite spot on the Camino?
Well, I'll have to say that what happens, I think, to most of us is that we have an experience, and that could be in the most torrid place, the most sort of, rain-swept, dirgy place, and we can have some sort of illumination, some sense of a kindness offered, and then it transforms the day and the experience. Personally, I prefer the quieter routes because one of the disadvantages of being an author of guidebooks, which quite a few people have, is that when I'm walking to, for instance, update or to find out, new experiences or new ways or new routes, I'm a man, And I never met a man who could do two things at once. So I can't hold a conversation with somebody, or a meaningful one, and also be open to, is that a new water font there? Or maybe I need to put that in the book. If I had to answer you truthfully, I'd probably say I've recently been walking the Camino de Invierno, which is, Johnny Walker knows that, he's produced a guidebook for it too, but it's one of the most beautiful routes, partly because it's virtually unwalked. I mean, I think the year before last, 70 people started in Monforte de Lemos, which is on the route, when 75,000 started in Sarria. So it is I just flag it as an opportunity for people, if they're walking the Camino de San Frances and they've walked it before, when you arrive in Ponferrada, just consider, if you're wanting a sort of a quieter, more reflective entry into Santiago, or perhaps walking through the incomparable beauty of Las Medulas, the largest Roman gold mines in the empire, walking along the sacred river Sil with all its beautiful vineyards, and walking into the western side into Santiago city. You'll see relatively few other pilgrims, and you'll see the most magnificent sacred landscape that you could ever find. It's not called the Ribera Sacra for no reason. It's a very beautiful alternative route that perhaps as we listen here, we could suggest to others, we might stay open to the possibility of including it in our journey.
And that starts in Ponferrada?
It starts in Ponferrada.
Oh, what a beautiful city too.
Lovely.
Very good. Well, John, it is, I'm trying to think what time it is in England right now. It's 5 o'clock, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's 5:05.
So it's probably almost time. Well, it's past tea time for
Yes.
you. So we so much appreciate you being on here this morning. We're going to try our best to stay on schedule. We also want to invite everybody back this evening for those that can. I know, John, this will be a little bit late for you and for our friends there in Spain. But this evening, starting about 6:45, we're going to be doing another Zoom, and we're going to be having on that Zoom Annie O'Neill, who's done the documentary of the Phil's Camino, and also 6 Ways to Santiago. Also, Yasmor Martinez will talk about Spanish foods and so forth, and she's a Spanish Camino food author. And George Greenya, the PhD and professor about medieval American pilgrims on the Camino, and finishing it off with Dan Mullins live from Australia and his music. So we're going to move right now to Joe Curro. Joe Curro happens to be our new board member. He performed at our celebration in South Bend, Indiana this past summer, and he sang a beautiful rendition during a shell ceremony here in South Bend, and he sang Ultrea. Now, we're going to ask everybody, Joe, I understand, to be muted, because it doesn't work out well when we open up the microphones and everybody sings along. But Joe, you've got a beautiful voice, and welcome as the newest elected board member of the American Pilgrims. You carry a great pilgrim spirit with you, and the stage is all yours, Joe.
Thanks a lot, Tom. It's great to see all the pilgrims here this morning, and it was wonderful to hear the moving remarks of the speakers today. As I think most of us, veteran pilgrims, know that the common greeting on the Camino is Buen Camino, but the medieval greeting was more of a call and response. It was Ultrea et Susea, which you could roughly translate as onward and upward. So if we were all together, I'd be asking you to do the call and response back and forth and sing along as loudly as you can. But obviously we can't do that. So I appreciate the muting as Tom said. I'm going to ask forgiveness. I'm channeling this through my high school French and high school Latin, and I've walked many kilometers since high school. So, but we're gonna give this a go. There are many translations, but generally you do hear it in French with the Latin chorus. So here goes. Tous les matins, nous prenons le chemin. Tous les matins, nous allons plus loin. Jour après, sur la route nous appelle. Sur la voie de Compostelle. De terre et chemin de l'euro, la voie, la clé de Charlemagne, c'est le chemin de tous les jacquettes. Depuis toujours sur les pistes, sonore qui m'atteste.
Oh, thank you very, very much, Joe. Much, much appreciated. Thank you.
Ultra.
Ultra. And hopefully you'll be at Black Mountain at our conference, and you'll sing that at our shell ceremony. And hopefully the pilgrims that attend that are going to do their first Camino and attend that, the tradition is that we give them a shell in a special ceremony at our national gathering in the spring. So, Joe, thank you. And I look forward to serving on the board with you, and so much appreciation to you today. We're going to go now to somebody that's not an American pilgrim, but somebody that's a member of Tom Friesen, who is a member of the Canadian Pilgrims, and he just came back, I understand. So Dave, if you can find Tom Friesen in the group and highlight him, he's going to sing us out today. Tom, there you are. Now, are you in Canada?
Yes, I thought I'd be the last one to have arrived from the Camino, but Johnny Walker, of course, beat me to it. I've been here for just over 12 hours, and like him, my backpack is not yet unpacked. I was lucky enough to be in Spain for 4 weeks, and I suspect that Anne and I were very close geographic proximity because I was working in Gragnon as a hospitalero the last half of November, and I'm very hurt that she didn't stop by for tea or just to say hi. We'll have to coordinate that next time, Anne. I also want to just express the appreciation to Johnny and to Anne and to John Brierly for the words. I hope this song is a good sum up because it tries to express the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell talks about and focal living experiences that are talked about by Arthur Boers that the Camino is. And it was actually solicited by Sherry Paget and used at a couple of shell ceremonies, St. Louis, I know, and a couple others. So anyway, this is a song that hopefully encapsulates the Camino. And I was singing Oltrea to wake up French pilgrims in Gragnon. We had the most number of pilgrims who actually came from France, interestingly enough, this year. But anyway, we'll see if this captures the spirit of what's already been talked about.
Tom, I'm going to just stop you for a second, because if you were in Gragnon, that's like one of the most famous, highly rated places to stay. Could you just tell us in a minute just about your experience being a hospitalero there?
Oh, sure, with great delight. That was actually my third time that I've served a full half month there. I've walked in with my muñequito out and been put to work immediately by the hospitalers who recognize the symbol of the Hospitaleros Voluntarios. Gragnon is a town of 300 people, just a little bit to the west of Santo Domingo de la Calzada. Many pilgrims will stop in Santo Domingo, but the ones who are kind of savvy know that Gragnon has a communal meal and an opportunity to go to the choir loft, which is designed for singing, to do a candlelight ceremony, a Vesper ceremony. And that's a great chance, a great place to sing and to enjoy. The people of Gragnon are extremely hospitable. They make sure that the church is kept open so that pilgrims can see it as they go by. You often hear the complaint that people do not have a chance to see the inside of the churches. In Gragnon, you can. Gragnon was hit fairly hard by COVID, though, so that albergue has been closed for 20 months. So we just had the pleasure of opening it on Monday. I think it was the 15th of November, and we worked half a month to the end of the month, and then a couple of Basque fellows came in, and they'll be doing a wonderful job there right now. And then I was very lucky to walk a couple of sections of Caminos when I was there, a bit of the Camino Catalan, and I walked from Nájera into Gragnon as a pilgrim. And then I went to Italy and was with a group of hospitaleros from Spain, Italy, Brazil, and Holland. And we were doing Caminos sections in the Bergamo area. And so that was quite interesting and a very good time together.
And you just got back hours ago to Canada.
Well, 12 hours I've been in my home. So my wife's not sure if I've shaved my beard again so that she recognizes me, but I came in looking a bit like Santa Claus.
Well, ho, ho, ho. So Tom, take it away. But before you do, I think because you just got back, Johnny is there in Spain. John Brierley's going there again soon, has been everywhere on the Camino, and Anne is there now. I'm suggesting, Dave, that after Tom is done singing, that we go back to Zoom format. And for those that want to stick around, we have sort of like a happy hour here, and we open up all of the Zoom and see if we can continue a conversation, meaningful conversation, to sort of process what we've just experienced this morning, which is just a beautiful gathering on Zoom during the pandemic. So Tom, take it away.
Thank you.
You wrote the song yourself, right?
Well, I did, and I sing it as often as I can because I like singing, but anyway, hopefully people like hearing it. I put a little Bailey's in my coffee this morning so that I would have the right Celtic lilt to my voice, I hope. So here we go. I heard you're walking far from home. Your heart's desire it now needs to roam, to find itself in places that you don't know yet, creating memories you will never forget, where every step will bring you to deep understandings that you will find new, shining and profound right through to your core. Inner and outer life, you will see so much more, surprised by joy that you'll find everywhere, by those at your sides, the birds in the air, flowers blooming sweetly, the dawn's early rays, hymns in the churches, everywhere there is praise. When you come back as a pilgrim returned, settled, unsettled with shell that you've earned, you'll find us all waiting with joy in our hearts. I'll tell you the truth now, we were never apart.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you very much, Tom.
You're welcome.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. You know, it's the holiday season here. We're just 2 weeks away from Christmas. It's a beautiful time, and as John said, you know, we're a real family of pilgrims from the Camino. We have a lot to share. And although I've been asked not to say this on this Zoom because don't want to be too self-serving for the American pilgrims, what a beautiful time of the year to perhaps join if you're not a member of the American Pilgrims. And you can easily do that by going to AmericanPilgrims.org. The website is phenomenal. The very important pillars of the American Pilgrims is to support, to gather, and to inform. And those are all very important things for pilgrims. As John talked about, we also want to build community, service, gratitude, and simplicity. The whole mission is we inspire all who seek the spirit of the Camino. Have a few thank yous here. Johnny Walker, thank you so much for joining us just a few hours back from your trips and back in Santiago. An inspirational talk you gave, and that video just, as we say in America, knocked it out of the park. I don't know what you would say in Spain or in England or Ireland, but you knocked it out of the park here today. Also, thank you to Ann Bourne, coming to us live from the Camino in Spain. Thank you, John Brierly, for you guiding us in life, not only on the path, but giving us some advice and a map for our lives of what we do with our pilgrimage experiences. Also want to thank Joe and Tom for their singing here today. As thank yous to all the board members of the American Pilgrims who helped make this possible. Dave Donsler, Steve Litch, Sarah Gradwall, Carmen Marriott, Megan Tubadian, Jackie Saxon, Bill Arts, Ruben Mendoza, and Allison Venuto, and our newest board members, Paula Yeager and Joe Curro. Our Facebook volunteer moderators, Sandy Brown, Russ Ains, Jeff Davies, Jim Martin, Yosmar Martinez, also Catherine Olenbrook, and for sure, Rosa Torres Tumazos. Thank you to all the over 100 chapter coordinators that make it possible. I saw many of you on here today. Also the Hospitaleros, Daniel Decay, that make the Hospitalero program possible. So Dave, if you have the controls, maybe you can just put us back into the old familiar Zoom mode, and we can do a free-for-all, and people can go back to their lives as they see fit. I still see that we have 200 participants. So if Dave, you can put us back into Zoom mode.
Sounds good. One thing I will say is,
Yes,
as we get finished here, thank you for coming up with this idea and working with your team to make this a reality. I think this has really turned out to be something special. So thank you very much for that. And to all of our Facebook community out there, thanks for joining us. I'm going to stop the live stream on Facebook now, but I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see how many folks save the live stream thing. I know I've already gone on that link and saved it. So thank you to everybody, and we're out.